This is your place for all things Grand Rapids Griffins and all things Toledo Walleye. This is the Hockeytown West podcast with your host, Brandon Cook, Nick Harrington, and Travis Foch.
Welcome to Hockeytown West podcast, your home for all things Grand Rapids Griffins, Toledo Walleye, and the future of the Detroit Red Wings. I'm one of your hosts tonight, Nick, and
I'm Travis.
And we are welcome today with a special guest, Mark Monroe of the Toledo Blade. How are you doing, Mark?
Excellent, guys. Thanks for having me here tonight. Appreciate it.
We love having you on. I'm glad to be able to finally sit down and be able to pick your brain on the Toledo side. Since I was not able to make the last episode that you're on with us. So glad for you to be able to join us and cut some time out of your busy you cover high school too, you said.
Yeah, high schools and the Walleye are my two main beats for the Walleye. I've been doing it for about 25 years now, so I got it down pretty good. But Walleye are my prime beat, and it's been fun. It's been fun having Travis down at the games and you guys jumping in and adding some additional content. I think you guys have done a great job since coming here.
We appreciate that. I'm glad Brandon's not here to listen to that. So or take any credit from it. We're looking to come down there here shortly. But Trav, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Finally had a weekend off. Got to see Mark all weekend again. Yeah. It was a little bit of a break with work, but I'm doing well.
Perfect. Before we're going to go through today for the listeners is go through the last three games that the Walleye had played, and then we're going to do a mid-season recap where they're at, break it down offensively, defensively, the goaltenders, standings, and then whatever else comes up throughout this episode. Before we get into the big news, I do want to go through and ask just a quick favor from all of our listeners, new and old. Please hit that subscribe button. Click that share button, the thumbs up button. Click all the buttons, see what they do. Try to give us some support. Leave a comment if you like the shorter episodes, the longer episodes. What keeps you coming back, or what you want to see new, or what you want from us. It always helps us guide the shows and give you guys what you guys want to hear. And or leave a rating. That also helps support us. And then we also have Patreon too that you can come and support for some cheaper tiers and some additional content without the ads. So we'll go through real quick with the news. Travis?
So the biggest, really only one piece of news, $31,700 to Acoustics for Autism for the Bonefish jerseys. Mark, I mean, what an accomplishment, right?
Yeah, it always amazes me what people are willing to spend. I think Brandon Hawkins' jersey went for $4,500. I think maybe the highest was like $7,000. I mean, going back some years, but and it goes for a great cause. Those jerseys, I like the jerseys, the design, but man, those numbers are brutal, huh, Travis? I mean,
yeah,
sitting up in the press box, I couldn't see nameplates, I couldn't see numbers, I didn't know who was who. I've been covering the numbers were. But, I don't think too many people are concerned about that. But, it's for a good cause. They do a bunch of, Travis, how many specialty jerseys they wear. I think they wear more special jerseys than their regular jerseys these days. But some of them are better. Some of them aren't so good. But the bottom line is that, they do it for charity. And so that's a good chunk of money for that charity.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting that they did the golden ticket a little different, and it was a team signed jersey because it's always seemingly Hawkins getting the golden ticket.
Normally they let the person pick, right?
Yeah, that was kind of a fun element, and plus, I mean, it gives even more to charity, right? And Acoustics for Autism, that was a really nice video they put together when they made the announcement, and I know it's pretty special to almost every, if not every player on that team.
Oh, the dog and the dog thing, all the charity work they do is special.
Is that the most that they've raised this year?
I think it is. Yeah, because these have been the most popular. I think maybe it was you, Travis, that said when they have the Frogtown jerseys coming up.
Yeah, those I think are going to fetch some good money. The Bullfrogs and the Kids Days.
I don't know if you're aware, Nick, but they had an arena team that was supposed to play here when the Huntington Center opened in 2009. They had the logo, everything, the nickname, everything picked out, just fell through. And so now they're wearing these bulldog jerseys, bullfrog jerseys. I'm sorry, that they're sharp. I like them. I'm not a big collectible guy, but those are pretty cool.
That's sick. So they're gonna be like football inspired then?
Yeah, it's like a bullfrog with a helmet. They're like, what are they? Purple, Travis? You've seen them?
They're black with green and orange.
Is it?
Yeah, I haven't seen them in person, but the mock-up that they've done, it looks good. I'm hoping that they do orange numbers with the black background so we can read them.
Right. Yeah, so I bet you those will go for some good money too.
So when the Griffins did their football inspired ones, those went for top dollar down here, and I hadn't seen jerseys go that high in a long time. So I was disappointed because I didn't get one, but I was happy for the charity that was able to collect on that end for the Griffins on that side. So it's cool that both organizations were able to do football inspired jerseys, and hopefully they do raise quite a bit of money for that charity for them. But we'll go through the quick weekend recap. Walleye played 3 games. They went 2-0-1, recorded 5 of 6 points. They had a 2-1 shootout win versus Kalamazoo. They went 4-3, or scored 4, let in 3, got an overtime loss versus Iowa, and then it was a 4-2 win versus Iowa the next night. What stood out this weekend for you, Travis?
They got back into the winning column. I think that's probably the biggest thing, and I know both me and Mark asked pretty similar questions, like how important was it to get back in the win column, and just to kind of get back into the winning rhythm that they had been on. I mean, they were on quite a roll there coming out of Christmas, but ultimately just getting back on track and getting a good week's worth heading into next week.
Yeah, they won 5 straight before their season high 4-game losing streak coming into the weekend. So yeah, they got back on track. I guess what stands out to me is they're playing shorthanded with players called up, some key injuries. And for them to have such a successful weekend, not playing their best hockey, I think they'll admit that. They're inconsistent at times, not playing their brand of possession hockey, high speed, lots of goals. That you know, you look at the scores, you know, they're good goal totals, but I think what stands out to me is what the success they had with all the missing pieces.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, you guys take it to Kalamazoo, who's dead last in the division for us. So it's good to be able to get a win off of them. And then also 2 against Iowa, who's sitting middle of the pack. We've seen a little bit of a different side up in Grand Rapids with us losing this 2 to Manitoba, who's less in our division last week. So it's good that you guys were able to pick up kind of the easier wins. Not that they're going to be easier teams, but teams that are in the bottom of the division and collect those points.
Well, the whole division is Cincinnati's improved. They're at the bottom too, but Iowa's a really good team. I mean, that's the other thing. I guess not only did they have success, those 2 games against Iowa, that's a team that's really improved quite a bit. When they joined the league, they were terrible, but now it was almost a guaranteed win. You say Heartlanders, oh, here we go, but it's different now. They're much better, and the whole division's getting improved. I think it's going to be a challenge. The Walleye play a bunch of Central Division. I think like 95% of the remaining games are all Central Division opponents. So those are 4-point games. You know, if you look at it, and they've always emphasized how important those are. So, but it's going to be tough. They're first in the division right now, and I really don't see that slipping too much. But it's going to be a challenge for them.
Yeah,
go ahead, Trev.
I think the biggest thing, like you kind of alluded to it, like, would you say Iowa's like your biggest surprise this year?
Oh, yeah, I would definitely say that. I mean, Indy's good. I mean, they've improved too. That's another team where you thought you see Indy and you're feeling pretty good about your chances. But those 2 teams in particular, Fort Wayne's always going to be there, the rival, and those games are always intense anyway. But up and down the Bloomington. So up and down the division, I mean, I know they go into every game expecting the best. How many times have we heard that, Travis, now that teams want to beat the Walleye, man? They're the team to beat. And and they embrace that. It's these expectations that have been built here, and there's some additional pressure, but I think they know that, they embrace it. So no game's an easy game for this team anymore.
I think the biggest thing for me is like these teams come in here and they're probably playing in front of more fans than they are on an average night to begin with. So it's an easy game to show up for. I think my biggest surprise would be that Cincinnati struggled so early. You're used to, like, with them being affiliated with Toronto, like the Growlers, they got like an American League team every year, it felt like. And then this year it's way different. But they've really turned it on lately.
Yeah, their roster is completely different now, I think, pretty much.
Yeah, a lot of trades.
A lot of moves, and they've done the right things there to put they're a tough opponent now.
Anything standing out, Russ, for the last 3 games that you guys had played?
Not really. I would say maybe just that Nolan Moyle's presence has been shown. He had 3 points this weekend, I'm pretty sure. So, he's come in and fit in really well. I know both of us got to talk to him this weekend, so it was kind of like a nice welcome to Toledo for him.
Yeah, if you don't know Nick, he was playing over in the KHL. He's a forward that played. Maybe you do know the name. He played at the University of Michigan, was a captain there.
Oh, wow.
And he has connections with Pat Mickish, the Walleye coach, going back to the Green Bay days in the USHL. I think he was teammates with Bliss too, Travis, on that team with Pat. Or they both played for Pat at some point. Anyway, yes, he's been a nice addition. That's without practice time too, Travis. That
right.
They played Monday, and he came, was signed Sunday, played Monday. He may have had 2 practices, but he looks pretty good out there. He had assisted on both power play goals and led him to the win. I think once he gets accustomed, he's going to be a great addition, I think.
I think the craziest thing that Pat told, I think it was you, and I was like blown away, is that he was like in Russia and was in America the next day and played. Like, yeah, that's crazy.
And I talked to him a little bit when you got sometimes hard to get out of those Russian contracts.
Yeah.
I talked to him about the paperwork, not too much about it, but it was, there was a new coaching change there. He wanted out of there, and it wasn't as simple as I want out, Yeah. But yeah, he came and played right away. And I think you put him in between Keenan and Ness. I think he's the center depth is good there, to have him. Face-offs have kind of been a little bit of a bugaboo lately, but yeah, I think he's got great potential. That's why they felt comfortable letting Casey Dornbach go, who, he was expected to be, a top-tier producer, and I'm not saying he didn't perform, but probably not up to even his expectation. Just didn't find a fit here for whatever reason, and the Walleye needed D help, so they made the trade and brought in the defenseman.
Bobby Russell.
Russell. I'm sorry, he's a new guy, but he's going to be a good fit back there. This, Travis, they really need help in the back end with the call-ups right now. So, but yeah, a couple of nice additions.
I was gonna say, I've heard through the postgame when you interviewed him, Travis, with Hawkins, that you guys added 2 new guys and they fit in the locker room pretty well. So, and then over the weekend they played pretty well then too, besides Moyle.
Yeah, I would say both looked relatively comfortable.
Yeah, I know Moyle was impressed with the. I always find it interesting to see, because he even said I had no idea what to expect. People can tell you, he's coming to the East Coast. Still, I think the East Coast still has somewhat of a
reputation
of being not high tier. But I'm telling you, I've covered it long enough to see where it was and where it is now. It's a high level league, but what I'm really referring to is the support here with the Walleye. I always like to watch the new guys when they do the hit somebody, in the national anthem. The place is going nuts. Pre-player intros. I've seen how many of those over the years, and it's pretty electric, man. And he was, he played up at Yost, so Moyle was like, it was quite a bit like that. Nothing like playing in front of a crowd that gets you juiced up. So yeah, I think they're both excited to see the kind of support that they get here.
Perfect. We'll transition to the standings updates. We got so far the Walleye said 26, 10, and 6-0 with 58 points. They're first in the Central Division and the Western Conference, second in the ECHL behind the Florida Everglades, right, Trav?
Yep.
Going for what? You said 4-peat?
It would be 4 in a row if they win it again this year, which is crazy.
That's not going to happen. We'll talk about that at the end. But thoughts on the division so far and kind of where everybody's sitting. Let's go with you first, Mark.
Well, you mentioned Florida. I was just looking at the schedule, and the Walleye have a road trip down there at the end of March. Maybe that's a preview of things to come. I know certainly the Walleye would love to have a rematch with them. They knocked them out of the Kelly Cup finals a couple of years ago, and they're just a machine down there. They like a lot of guys like to play. Who wouldn't want to play down there?
Right.
It's beautiful. I mean, in this, we're sitting in last week it was in the single digits here. And imagine being able to be on the beach and down there. But I think they recruit a lot of high end talent, and we'll see. I mean, there's a lot. You got to get through I think that speaking into the division to kind of get to your point, I think we already addressed it a little bit, but I think there's not going to be any sweeps. I don't think in the last year was back-to-back sweeps to open the playoffs in the Central Division semis and finals, and I don't think that's going to happen this year for a variety of reasons. I don't think the Walleye quite have the depth and the talent right now to do that. But I think the other teams, I mean, Fort Wayne, and we mentioned Iowa, Bloomington's right there, the expansion. You don't usually see an expansion team right in the thick of things. And then I mentioned Indy. So any of those teams, I think, it's be a battle. I think the Walleye should still win the division where they have a 7-point cushion.
Yep, 7.
But they do have games in hand. So like Fort Wayne still have 3 games that played 3 less games than the Walleye. So you got to look at that. I know that's always brought up, but it should be a good battle. I mean, all the way to the end. I know Travis and talking to Pat and the players, how important it is to get the home ice, as we just talked about, how big of an advantage the Huntington Center is. And they really want to win the division to set themselves up for at least the first 2 rounds.
Yeah, I mean, you've said it perfectly. I mean, I think it's 2 years in a row they've swept the first 2 rounds. Like, you're 16-0 in the last 2 years in the first 2 rounds of the playoffs. So it's just crazy to think about. What really is going to intrigue me with the division is the race for 4th. I mean, you pretty much got a 3-team race with Bloomington, Indy, and Cincy, which we kind of went into a little bit. But really the race for 3rd, I think, is what's going to be interesting to monitor.
Yeah, for sure.
To me, it's crazy to see Bloomington up there that high as being an expansion team. Just like in the conference, looking at Tahoe, like right behind Toledo in the conference, 2 new teams just coming in and really finding their way right in the division. You would assume that they're not going to be like Vegas where they come in and just kind of crush everybody in the NHL in their first year. But to see them come in and be right there in the middle, in the thick of it, that's great for the market and for the area, for the fans, to at least be on some sort of a bubble for the playoffs if it comes down to that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, they're I think maybe it's easier to do as a new franchise in the ECHL because of the turnover. I mean, if you look at the Walleye every year, you're lucky to have 10 guys maybe back or 8 guys. But yeah, no, nonetheless, I mean, we just mentioned Iowa had struggled their first couple of years as a franchise. So yeah, to see Bloomington there is interesting for sure.
It's strange, too, to see Kalamazoo doing so poorly this year after such a great year that they had. I know they lost a few guys, like Radikop came over to us, but and we ended up sweeping them in the first round last year.
Mm-hmm.
And they were doing so well, and like we just couldn't figure out how to beat them. And this year, you see that they're just way there at the bottom in no man's land. I mean, and I know Cincy kind of went through a big struggle in the beginning of the season. Do you guys know what's going on down there? Or?
Like, I mean, we kind of alluded to it, just a lot of roster changes. They've got a lot of moving parts, and they finally have found some stability.
Joe Martin up there, at Kalamazoo, I thought he had great potential. He still does. I mean, it's hard to recruit up there. If you're like a Michigan guy or an ECHL level guy I don't know. You have a choice between Kalamazoo or Toledo or Fort Wayne. I mean,
It's tough.
I don't want to talk bad. Okay, I love going up there. They've got that old arena that reminds me a lot of Travis and I have
Sports arena.
Sports arena quite a bit, and I love the old school arenas still, and they've got a good fan base up there. I mean, what did they celebrate? Their 50th anniversary up there, along with the ECHL Hall of Fame. So there's tradition and history there. I think he's going to turn it around. I don't know if I can pinpoint one thing, but really, it's you lose your captain to a division rival, Redicop. That's one thing. So. But I expect him to. They'll be all right again. I know that they don't just say this when they're playing those two teams, Cincinnati and Kalamazoo. They're not thinking that's an automatic 2 points.
No, you hear that every time we're down there. There's no guaranteed 2 points.
Mm-hmm.
And they've got a new stadium in the works. It's going to be crazy from what me and Brandon have been seeing for the plans on it. So, anything else on the division, on the conference?
I got nothing.
Yeah, no, I just think, that they'll have, I think I alluded to this already, but that they have their own fate. The Walleye have their fate in their hands. If they are successful in the division, they'll maintain that lead and have home ice advantage. So that, it's up to them to perform in those division games.
Do you guys foresee them going on? Like the last 2 years, they've had some crazy win streaks. Do you guys foresee that happening this year? That the teams are really like gelling, coming together and going to rattle off like a 10, a 15, 25 maybe game win streak?
I don't know if that's in the cards. I mean, I got to say, the goaltending has been, we haven't mentioned the goaltending yet. Bednar and Carter Guylander have been really good, especially lately. There was some growing pains maybe a little bit earlier, just I don't know, it's early in the season, but I think they both rounded into form where you're comfortable with both of them. I think the biggest difference is the scoring hasn't quite been there yet. I mean, I think they're down a full goal per game or more over this time last year. I guess the biggest concern I have with the team is the secondary scoring. That top line is and I'll say this, I have no qualms about it, that I think the 16, 17, 18 line, the Hansen line, is the best in the ECHL. Hawkins leads the league. Spezzia's a fifth, something like that, 8, and then Bliss. I mean, he's going to catch fire. But after that, I mean, I think they still have the guys on the roster. Some people are asking maybe for line changes, to mix things up. But I think Craggs, like Sam Craggs, already has a hat trick. I think Brandon Cruz has a history of being able to produce. And when they get Lewandowski back, I think they have the weapons there to get back to that scoring pace. But the difference I'm seeing is, especially lately in this funk they've been in, is just they haven't been able to possess the puck as much as they like. And they're not capitalizing on their opportunities or getting those grade A's as much as they have in the past, other than that top line. And when other teams can focus on that top line, somebody I think broke down the stats, but they've got the vast majority of scoring among those three. They need the secondary scoring. And when other teams can just focus on trying to shut down that number one line, it makes it harder. So who knows what Pat's going to do? He always says he's thinking of making moves. They're always looking to improve. Always. That's always been the case. I mean, at this level for sure with Dan Watson was always looking to improve, but sometimes that's easier said than done because of course you have to give up a piece to get a piece. So, but I guess that's the biggest difference as far as going on a big run. And I think they'd rather have that big run in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's probably a good time to save for it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like leading into our next category, which is like the offense, right? You said they're down about a goal a game. It is kind of maybe a little concerning with mainly your top line kind of carrying the way so heavily. But like you said, you alluded to a couple bright spots. Cruz has 20 assists this year. Not many goals. Maybe if he can, find the back of the net a couple times, that'll be big for his confidence. Griffin Ness was on a heater to start the year. If they can kind of get him going again somehow. Carson Bannell, I mean, he's carrying that second line goal scoring wise. It seems like every night he's scoring, but that's kind of what I've noticed offensively. I mean, the first line, Mark, you already pointed it out. I mean, that's probably one of the best lines in the ECHL.
Yeah, no, you mentioned Mantle. I'm glad that you did. I know he hadn't been getting the ice time up there in GR, and I think he's loving it down here. You can tell he stands out.
Yeah.
He's got the physicalness, he's got the stature that maybe they're lacking a little bit in some areas. And just the other night, I can't remember which game it was, but he was flying all over the place, and he's going to be crucial to both sides. I think he plays a 200-foot game. I think he's been great since he's been down here.
I think the biggest thing I noticed with him is like Sunday, you started to see that physical side maybe a little bit more. Kind of in a similar role to what like Hunter provided when Hanas was down here. You kind of seen that with Banel a little bit more, maybe Sunday, with also still chipping in offensively. But yeah, I mean, like, we've kind of said, it's hard too because you've had some big names miss a lot of time, which we'll kind of get into as well. But as a whole, I mean, yeah, they're 12th in the league in goals. They're still scoring over 3 a game, and which we'll get into next is defense. But defensively, I think they may not be scoring as much offensively because they've put a lot more commitment into playing better defense this year.
Really good point for sure. And I was just looking at the stats. They're 4th in the league in goals against. So if you're not scoring, you better be shutting the other team down. And they've been doing that. I think, what is it, 2.5 goals they're giving up a game. So that's good. And that goes back to starts at net. You guys know this, that you're only going to go so far as your goaltending. And I'm actually doing a feature story on Jan Bednar. He's been I think he's grown tremendously just on and off the ice, just the way he's grown, both mature. I mean, he's still young. He's only 22, I think. But, man, he's got the size. And when he puts the mental part of it together, it's starting to click for him. And then Guylander's I've been really pleasantly surprised with how consistent he is.
I think the biggest thing it was kind of unique listening to you talk to Jan the other day down there. It's kind of one of the things I know, like, just kind of like, he likes to face a lot of shots early. He's alluded to that, kind of helps him settle in and find that consistency. And like you said, I mean, even for Carter, I mean, he's come in and you look at the save percentages this year versus last year, they're up dramatically. For the regular season. I mean, you had 2 goaltenders that were like hovering around 900 or just under, and this year you're 912 and 914. So I think that kind of speaks to the impact of Austin Kaiser. Yeah,
I'm glad you brought him up, and that was a good podcast you had with him. I think he's huge. I don't think they've ever, and in fact, I know they've never had a dedicated goalie coach, and both goalies have mentioned how great it's been to work with him on a daily basis. That's a huge difference maker,
Yeah, I think, Detroit has put a lot of trust in Toledo with some of their, now goaltending prospects. I mean, Bednar was a 4th round pick. You got a 7th round pick in Guylander now. And you got a 1st round pick with Kosa. I mean, the future, you never know. Could Trey be down here? Maybe, maybe not. In the future. But, I think, like we said with Austin, like, it's kind of like the new wave, right? You're going to get goaltending from your parent clubs. I think you're starting to see that trend, and they've handled it really well.
Yeah, it's changed over the years with how much support the Red Wings have given the Walleye in that area as far as trusting them developing goalies. Well, you look at Kosa starting his career here. I think Bednar would like to take the same path, get his feet wet 1-2 years here, move his way up the chain. We'll see how that works out. But it's good to see the Red Wings trusting the Walleye franchise down here with some of their top goaltending prospects.
So I want to jump the gun just a little bit and just kind of ask you what your thoughts are for next year with these 2 goaltenders. Where do you foresee them being?
Oh, I don't. I never try to project on that stuff because it's out of the Walleye's hands. I'm not even. Is Bednar on the second part of a a contract here?
I think he's in a contract year.
Yeah, second year.
Yeah,
So.
I think he's with the Griffins didn't sign him. I think Toledo signed him, but I'd have to.
He's on a Griffins deal.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, I don't try to project those things, but the way he's playing, I could see Bednar working his way up, and but the Red Wings are just always seem to have plenty of goaltenders.
Yeah, especially this year.
Do you foresee Trey Augusty going the same route then, being in Toledo?
I wouldn't see why not, right? I mean,
weird.
that would be great to see him start here. I think that's sure.
I think that's been the question on a lot of people's minds when we're watching Trey and we're watching how Detroit's handling the goaltending situation down in Toledo, where everybody kind of starts there and then works their way up. But
I think it's the perfect place to get a start because, as I said earlier, the level of competition, the speed and skill, Travis, you see it. I mean, they're getting tested. It's not like they're. I mean, it's high quality opponents that they're facing. So I think it's an ideal situation. Because you're going to be surrounded also with some pretty decent talent down here and able to get your feet wet. Yeah, I could see that happening.
And there's no rush because we've got Costa coming up through the pipeline too. So I mean, it's a perfect scenario if they go that route. Not saying that they will, or which side of the fence I'm on. Me and Travis have already debated this before. We still do.
Let's get to defense before this gets off the rails.
All right, so let's talk defense. We already mentioned, you guys said fourth best in goals against per game at 2.5. All these new faces. It's Toledo. It feels like the last 2 years that we've been covered. It's kind of a revolving carousel of players coming and going, and we're trying to pick up through the college ranks or through pickup hockey. I'm not sure how else they pick up these guys or where they find these guys through the big tree of networking that they have. But what has been you guys' surprise so far with this defense and how they're meshing well?
Yeah, no, I think not to start what they're missing, but Grant Gabriel and Matty Anderson are two guys that were part of the team last year that were part of the big run there. And when they get them back, I mean, you're going to see more of what Pat had envisioned. And the other thing is Chaz Redekop, which we've already talked about. That guy, you see him as an opposing player, but then when he's on your team, he's an impactful guy, and he's missed a couple weeks now.
He's missed 13 games.
Oh man, but when they get him back, I mean, I guess not to avoid your question, but I think it's just not there yet as far as the defense. I think they've got some young guys back there. I know Pat has told me repeatedly that you got to look at what you have. So he likes the young guys. This Russell that he brought in, people see his plus minus now. And where was he at, Travis?
I think minus 27, and it had everybody freaked out.
Yeah.
But you got to look at what team he's on. And right. I know Pat says he's fit in well. You get him some time. And yeah, I mean, Smerek, I guess I probably should have started there because he's just solid. I mean, he's more of an offensive-minded guy, but he puts up points. He hasn't been on quite the pace that he was last year, maybe the ECHL All-Star year, first team last year. But I think he's going to pick it up. He's great on the special teams, and I think they're solid, but they're growing back there.
Yeah, I think you kind of alluded to it, kind of an ever-revolving door until they get some of these guys back into their proper roles. Guys are kind of playing outside of their role a little bit. Maybe some guys elevated from where maybe they were used to or kind of projected to be. But at the same time, they all preach next man up, and they've done relatively well with it. I mean, you look where they're at in goals against. I mean, fourth in the league. It's a true testament to, being able to play at a pretty elite level with keeping the puck out of your net with so many new pieces seems nightly.
Yeah, Colin Sawyer is another guy I should mention. He was up the last couple games. I think he's second among defensemen in scoring. So he's been a really solid ad back there too. It'd be good to get him back in the lineup. So
yeah, I think with him, that first pair is like such a shutdown pair when they're together. He spoke of Chaz, and then with Sawyer, those two together, they've pretty much played every game together until Chaz went out of the lineup. And that was truly like their shutdown pair. So, like you said, if they can get Gabriel back, if they can get Anderson back, that'll put them in a good place come the end of the year.
These guys are just excuse me because I don't know, but
No
are
problem.
they just injured or are they just alone?
AHL call-ups for Anderson and Gabriel and Lewandowski too.
Yeah.
Some other people look closer at that. I guess they haven't been getting much playing time.
Not as much as maybe they'd hoped.
Yeah. So Pat's hands are kind of tied when they get called up. He always wants to give the guys an opportunity to, go up if somebody wants them. But those two guys in particular, Redicop, as I mentioned, is injured. Sawyer suffered an injury up just this weekend, and I think they expect him to be back sooner rather than later. And they just finally got Conlon Keenan. He's a forward, but back in the lineup too. So it's been a mixture, I guess, to answer your question, of call-ups and injuries.
It seems like this year there's a lot more being called up to other organizations in the A than what you typically see where we're pulling them up in our team.
That's true. I think you guys are so deep up there that you don't. Usually it is if they're going, it's going to be up to GR more often than not. But it's like I said, it's even when Dan Watson was down here, it's known that if you come here, the part of the reason you're here is to develop and to get opportunities to move up the system, the chain. So he's told them whenever somebody calls and they want you, we're gonna let you go. So.
Well, and it's great to see that aspect. We just hate when we see him in our division. Like Trent Bliss going to Chicago.
Here. Yeah.
Louis went to
Milwaukee.
Cleveland, didn't he? Oh,
Milwaukee.
He went to Milwaukee.
Grant's in Cleveland.
So that's the worst part is friendly fire on that end. So
yeah,
we hate to see it there. But anything you guys want to add based off of defense, offense, goaltending, kind of put a bow on this part before we go into an ad break?
No.
Well, I would just say that the expectations are so high. I think when there's a little stumble, this fan base gets a little antsy.
Does it remind you of the Toronto Maple Leafs?
Yeah, I mean, this guy is not falling. The roster's not where it's going to be, and it's just a matter of. And again, they're in first place. What more do you want? And they just got 5 out of 6 points. So I just think that the panicking. I mean, but I'm not saying it's not completely justified because they have not played up to their standards. They haven't been scoring, as we've talked about. But that's where I'd say the roster's just incomplete at this point.
Trav, anything else to add?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel that aspect because like this year, watching the Griffins, we're the first place in the division, and it's just like we're still not completely there. We're waiting on some guys to come back as well, and the Wings are kind of picking us apart right now. But
just don't take Bantle. Don't take Bantle back.
So we might need him sooner than later with Shine up there in the NHL. So it's just we're kind of panicking. We go through a rough stretch over here a little bit, but. Hey, at the end of the day, we're still up at the top, and that's important.
Exactly.
So, we'll take this to a quick ad break. I believe it's going to be me reading it. So instead of handing it off to Nick, it'll be me reading it. So, we'll be right back with kind of wrap up the rest of the Toledo Walleye.
The 24-25 NHL season still has that new car smell, and the action is heating up at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. It's super easy for first-timers to get started at DraftKings Sportsbook. Try betting on something simple, like picking a team to win. And if you're new to DraftKings, listen up. New customers bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ice.
And we are back. So we've only got a couple more topics to go through. So first one here is the leadership group. They have been rotating the A's again this year between Hawkins, Keenan, Bliss, Craggs, but there are some other big additions like Spezia, Redicop that have also helped this team. Thoughts on why they have so many guys in the room with leadership experience and why they rotate it so much?
Yeah, I mean, that's the way Pat set it up last year. He had the 4 capped, 4 assistants and I think it worked for him there, and decided to do it again. And yeah, I don't know. At some point, you do. I think maybe you should have a designated captain, and I think it's pretty obvious which one you choose on this team. Yeah, he rotates them on the road and then 2 at home, 2 on the road, and it's worked. So, and I don't see a big problem with communication with the refs or anything like that. And I think they're all qualified. Is really the bottom line. I mean, you don't designate a guy an alternate assistant captain if he doesn't have the qualities. So I think that's why he thinks they're all bring different types of leadership, and it's worked. So.
I think the one thing that's interesting to me with it is you see the same 4 as last year: Hawkins, Keenan, Bliss, Craggs. But then you bring in a captain from a former team in Redicop. You have Spezia, who's seen American League games and quite a few of them. Smerrick's been around the league for a long time, so he's seen a lot. And it just goes to show, like, you can never have too much of it. Sometimes, when that different voice maybe says something that can just ignite something that maybe one of the others wasn't thinking or seeing. So I think it's just a testament that when you get later in the season and you get into them playoff series, it takes a group, it takes a room, and they have, you could probably put a letter on half the room at this point, but
Yeah,
that's just kind of how I see it.
a good problem to have, I guess, just to have so many. That's a good point that there's Redicop. That's a perfect example, any of those guys. But I know, and like when the new guys, even Moyle, we talked to him, just how great the leadership group is. I mean, They just, and again, they lead in different ways. And I think it's worked. And yeah, you're right. There's probably about eight of them that could wear the C.
It's like on other teams, they could all be captains. It's just crazy. But that's the one thing I've noticed and kind of heard over the years is that you can never have too much leadership. It's always an important thing to have. And
Absolutely.
Look at how long they had, like, the 1 year it was like they had Bursch and they brought Bonus back. And there was all them guys, and they had Hensick and all. It was just like there were so many big names with so much experience. The more experience you can have later in the season, the better.
Yeah, no question.
I know Steve, like when Stevie Y was drafted, he was like kind of picking a lot of people that were playing or who were captains for their teams when they were drafted. Do you think it's something that Pat's been doing too when they're trying to find like replacements, is find people that are in that leadership role or
Absolutely
play that part?
Probably go definitely, Nick. You can go through the roster and probably see that a lot of these guys were captains in college or Moyle is a perfect example of a guy you're bringing in that was a captain at Michigan, which is no small thing. But I think, I know Dan Watson that was one thing that he always emphasized, bringing in guys that were proven leaders and also guys that have won championships. That was two of the key elements he always had in recruiting guys. And I think Pat's carried that over where, they carefully choose which guys they're going to bring in. And captaincy and leadership are enormous elements.
I'm trying to remember who we talked to in the offseason too. Is this like, who's the guy that reaches out as soon as they have a new addition?
Keenan,
like, and like the culture there, from what we've heard between Hawk and Speege and everybody else, is just the culture that leadership group brings is it's phenomenal. I mean, go figure why when new people come in, they love it here because of the way the players do this for the guys.
Well, you look at a guy like Spezia that, he knew the culture here, and it's just a place that people want to play. I mean, they've got connections all over. Hawkins has played with probably half these guys growing up. I just had a feature on he and Spezia making a Might all-star team as kids. A little picturing those two together was really neat, and now they're all-stars again in the ECHL. But people love to play here. I mean, that's why you see a Smerrick, who probably could have gone anywhere in the league, quite honestly.
Right.
And he came here because of all of that.
Who do you see them trying to recruit, or anybody that, or position wise, that this team needs before the deadline?
Well, again, I think it's the scoring. I mean, if you could find, maybe one of these teams that are not quite in contention anymore is maybe where you look for. That's where I see it's just, to me, it's pretty obvious that, and again, they may find that on the roster. You know what I mean? I think they have the potential already there to, and teams and players go through slumps and whatever, and it could all come together and they may not need to make a move. And again, as I said earlier, you don't just make a move. You got to give something up, or the big thing with Pat is it's got to be the right fit. You're not just going to if you're bringing in some guy that doesn't, I can think of a guy, I'm not going to name his name, that was leading the team in scoring one year mid-season, and Dan Watson let him go. It's the same thing. You got to have a guy that fits your system, your culture, a team guy first, and you don't just go out and get the guy that's leading the league in scoring.
I think the thing that might make it a little more complicated this year too is they already have their 4 veterans. So you gotta find that middle ground player that if they were to make a deal, you kind of got to weigh the options of, okay, like we can't truly go for a veteran because we've already got 4. You got to find that guy that doesn't have that veteran status yet that can come in and make an impact if they were to add.
And I'd say those 4 veterans are untouchable, I guess you'd say.
I would say so, absolutely.
That with Hawks, Bisha, Redicop.
Yeah.
And, it might not come from outside the organization either. It might come from inside the organization. Based if both teams, Detroit and Grand Rapids, can get healthy, we might be sending you some help instead of the other way around.
We were talking about that, Nick, the other day. Yeah,
we
again,
were.
Mantle, you can have Mantle back for a little bit, but if he comes back for the playoffs, that'd be great. And was it Seager? He was only here for 2?
Yeah, like a
games,
game or 2.
Man, he was. I was like, wow, if he could stick here. And same with Johannes. He looked good too. Those 3 stand out to me as to guys that. But again, we'll see it's always injuries, and the Walleye are kind of at the mercy of what happens above them. But those 3 guys, for sure, it could come. That would be equivalent to making a major trade if you get like a Seager down here for sure.
Yeah. The second half of the season is always interesting because you get the European League start to end, you get the college season starts to end, and then we've got some pickups and junior starts to end, and so you start picking some players up as you go, and that's where we got Hunter last year was just through college. His college season ended, and we ended up signing him, and he was a good fit for the back half of last season. And I know I think he was going through a little bit of an injury and a little bit sitting out for a while, so he was able to go down to Toledo and get his game together. So
that is a really good point, Nick, because the Walleye have done that before, where they've got Ed Burkholder is their head scout. He scouts primarily up in the OHL and college, Canadian colleges, and he's brought in some pieces. They've got to play 5 games, regular season games, to qualify for the roster. And that's another way you could definitely start building it that way.
Wilms and Gilmore.
Season,
Yep.
Last year.
And Doucette. I mean, he came from college too.
Absolutely.
So, and I know Hunter's only 1 game away from being able to qualify for playoffs for you guys too.
Yep, he needs 1 more.
Right.
He's at 4. 1 more. And then Seager's at how many?
Seager, I think, needs 3.
Yeah, I think he's only playing the 2, but like I said, when he was here, it was like, man,
it was noticeable.
3 more so he can qualify.
Yeah. So it's it's always interesting to see how the dominoes, how closely we all really are related, even geographically. We're so far apart.
Yeah.
As we were talking before the show. Travis, anything else to add for deadline deals?
No, not really. It's crazy that it's only going to be about a month and a half away already.
Mm-hmm.
February's a short month and January's like a Monday. So we'll move on to the fan base. So you brought this up, Travis. 55 straight sellouts dating back to December 6th of 2023. And this is why I'm not allowed to be in Toledo, because I can't get tickets.
We'd find a way for you, buddy.
Yeah, we'll help you out. That's no problem.
I mean, Mark, you've seen it longer than I have, how passionate this fan base is. But, it's incredible. You think back December 6th of 2023, their last non-sellout, 55 straight games, like, and that's including playoffs, which, I mean, as you know, playoffs can even be harder to get people in the door in the minor leagues because there's not as many giveaways and, you know, that attraction to get fans in the building. So it just shows the hockey market.
It's unbelievable. It never gets old. It makes it fun. I think one thing that Pat just actually pointed this out, Mickish, that it's not only a passionate fan base, but it's a knowledgeable fan base. They know when to, you know, if there's a bad call or if they're a big power play, they know the moments where they step up. But really, it's 42 straight games. The sellout here is 7,431, and it's every night. It's far exceeds that number. Usually, when it's a Friday or Saturday, you're guaranteed 8,000, and it's standing room only, and they're literally standing
Four people deep.
For sure. And it just adds, and the players love it, coaches love it. It makes for it's easy for the Walleye to get up. And one of you guys pointed out earlier, I've talked to opponents that love coming here, like Smerrick. I know, they'd get on him here, and razz him when he had the puck, boo him. But he wanted to come here because he wanted to play in front of sellout crowds. Because that's, you guys know this. When you go on the road, I've talked to some of the places they go to. I mean, I don't want to call out names. Wheeling, for example. I love going to they got an old school facility they renovated, and it's really cool place to see a game. But when you're playing in front of 1,000, 1,500 people, it's hard. I mean, even if you're a pro hockey player. So yeah, the fan base, it's talked about a lot, and I think rightfully so. I mean, it's they show up. They do. They show up, and they expect winning hockey, and it makes it a fun team to cover. I'll tell you that.
It does. I do seeing it from a different perspective this year, like the behind the scenes stuff that we've been fortunate enough for them to give us, and to talk with you on almost a daily basis. Like, you see it in a whole different sight than you do as just a fan walking in the door. Like, it's a great place. Would you say it's the hardest ticket in town to get?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Toledo's a great sports town. Like I mentioned, I cover high schools. I mean, you go to a Friday night football. Friday night lights here are huge, and then you got the University of Toledo. You got BG. They're well supported, but the Walleye franchise is just taking it to a different level. A lot of that has to do with success. There's no question about it. If they started losing every game, it would be different. But we talked about the jersey sales and the amount of money people are willing to spend on that. And if they have a bobblehead giveaway, I'm telling you guys, if they have a game at 7:15 on a Saturday night, and it's Brandon Hawkins bobblehead coming up here, they'll line up at 9 a.m. I've seen them camp out overnight for
it's nuts.
Giveaways.
That's insane. It's absolutely insane.
It's neat. What's neat about it though is that it's a tight community. It's like you see the same faces, and it's just a passion that they have, and it's something that it's just, I guess it's like that with pretty much a lot of sports teams where you have the fanatical base. But it's neat here in Toledo how it's grown, and Toledo's always been a terrific hockey town, going back to the Gold Diggers and the old sports arena. But to see the fan base grow and now hockey is supported in this community it's fun.
It's crazy too. Like, even at the high school level, you see Tamo get sold out for high school games. Like,
yeah,
that's crazy.
That's fun down there. The district finals, and there's some good quality hockey here at the high school level too.
I'd love to see the high school finals get brought up to Toledo.
Oh man, that's been talked about. That would be a huge change, because God bless the Blue Jackets and the nationwide arena down there. But when they have the state hockey championship down there, it looks empty. I mean, because obviously it's an NHL arena, and the atmosphere is just not there for a state championship game. And if they had it at Huntington Center, I'm not saying it's going to be packed, but it would be well supported. I think that, we've been talking about that for a long time.
I think it would draw just the casual hockey fan. Like, it's not like the state of Minnesota where they sell out the Minnesota Wild arena for a high school game. That's just insane. But if you had it in that 7,400 seat arena, like you're probably going to get a couple. You're going to fill most of that lower bowl, I bet.
Certainly, they have that NCAA regional coming up here, so
That's going to be sweet.
To see what the attendance is for that. They don't.
Do we know what region that is?
I'm not. What the Midwest region? I'm not. They don't know the seedings or even the teams that are going to be in it yet. But
right,
they had it here before, and I'll be honest with you. I think the sales were and the attendance was a little disappointing. So, and it included Notre Dame and what was the other big? Well, BG hosts. So, but we'll see. But the high school hockey is a different thing altogether. But it's a great hockey city.
You bring up that college thing. It's unique that with that ticket package because you buy one package and you get 3 games. So for $45 a piece, that's a good selling point, really.
Yeah, I think you can't you also just get the individual tickets too? So they give you a discount if you get the package.
I think so.
Okay. Yeah, well, we'll see what happens. They'll start advertising a little more once we know who the teams are going to be.
Do we know what the record is for straight sellouts?
Well, hey, that's a good question. You mean like in the ECHL?
Just overall. I just didn't know are we close to like history with this, or we already break it, or are we like
they've definitely made walleye history. There's no question.
Yeah, that's.
I got to be honest. Early on, when the team did struggle, they weren't selling out every night. But really, since the franchise inception in 09-10, they've consistently been top 2, top 3. It's always hard to catch a Fort Wayne because their building is 10,000 plus. And I don't think you'll catch what is it, Bloomington, right, Travis? That's now leading the
Jacksonville.
Oh, Jacksonville, right? No,
which I don't know how big their building is, but it's cool. That state
cool
of Florida,
to see Florida. That's what stood out to me, right? A Florida team,
state of Florida.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. But yeah, I can't see that dropping off. I mean, it only picks up in intensity in the playoffs too.
We ready for the final question?
Yeah, I guess so. We're here.
We're here. All right, we have to ask it every time. Is this the year?
Oh my gosh. Don't put that pressure on me, guys. Yeah, I mean, objectively, as my position as I think yes. I think it's long overdue, but I'm not going to guarantee anything if you're asking me to make a bold prediction. But
what's long overdue?
A championship here. I mean,
you're going that route. Okay, yeah.
What were you asking?
That's what he was asking.
I think the pieces are all there. You already mentioned Florida, and you're not looking that far ahead, but it's just been hard. Once they get out of the division, because it's so division oriented, you don't know what to expect when you're playing these other teams, and they've run into the Mountain Division, and then you're in the Eastern Conference. So much has to go right, guys, to win a championship at any level. But I'm a hockey guy, and I think hockey is the hardest sport to win a championship in, bar none, because you need, number one, the goaltending. You just got to stay injury-free. These may be cliches, but it's just true. And will it all come together? Like I said, I think if the pieces all come back and the goaltending continues to step up and the scoring starts to pick up, I don't see why not.
Yeah, I think, if they can get, like you said, the main pieces back, the big 4 that we've kind of talked about, maybe another addition up front from either GR. I think they still need an addition up front myself. And then, like you said, Mark, you got to have a lot of things go right. Look, I've said it for years. It's hard to win 1 round, let alone 4. And that kind of shows you how special Florida's been putting 3 years in a row. I mean, it's just that's 12 straight rounds they've won. It's like, or no, not 12. Yeah, 12 round. Yeah. So that's just an unheard of thing at this level. But right. if they can get a couple pieces, I think the core pieces are in place.
Yeah, definitely. It's a grind. It's really a grueling grind to win it. And again, you look at Florida, and Cam Johnson's been their goaltender has been the key to that, as far as I'm concerned. But you get a guy that starts playing lights out, anything can happen. That's quite a ways away, guys. Though.
Yeah, it is.
See.
That's I think the one thing about this, you say passionate, and that's what it is, fan base, but like there's so much pressure, right? And like the fans put that pressure on these guys, and they do such an excellent job of, maintaining the right mindset one day at a time. And ultimately, pressure is a privilege, right? And they understand. Like that's where I kind of go to the fans. It's like, okay, reel it back a little bit. They know, like, you don't need to harp on them anymore.
Yeah, it's January, guys. Championships aren't won in January, but they embrace it. If nothing else, when the season starts, they don't avoid it. I'll tell you that, especially the leadership group we talked about. They know the expectations. They embrace it. They don't avoid talking about it. They say, cup or bust. I mean, that's the way it is here anymore. And that's why they're here. So, I mean, they're not going to shy away from it. That's the ultimate goal in any sport. But here now it's more realistic that you're going to contend every year. So they're ready to do the best they can to do it.
Yep.
Well, you guys, like, Toledo set such a high expectation each year of going to the conference finals and then getting to the end, and so it's a good pressure to have, but also like the fans are gonna go crazy if they don't get it again this year, kind of thing. I feel so.
On the flip side, imagine what would happen if they did win it. I've talked about the parade. There's going to be a parade. I mean, it's been since 1994, guys, and that's a long time, even for an old guy like me.
Travis, were you born yet?
No, I wasn't.
Oh, you went all this way.
I think if it were to happen, there'd be a lot of people calling off work the next day.
Yeah. We're already planning.
It'd be phenomenal, not just for the city and the fans, but the guys that have played. Travis mentioned like a Hensick and Bershback and the Hall of Famers, Jeff Lurg, and it would mean everything to all of those guys too.
They were the building blocks, like the guys that aren't here now and have retired. They were all a part of it to get them to the level they're at now.
Absolutely. I could go on and on with all the guys that did all they could to win it here. And I know they're pulling as hard as anybody for this group to do it.
Hopefully this is the year. Just like, Kansas City in the finals for the Super Bowl. Hopefully, Philly takes that and stops their three-peat that they've got going on too. So, well, we'll wrap up here. Mark, I want to thank you for stopping in, giving us your opinions and feedback for the first half of the season. What else? You plugged in a couple of the articles that you're working on. What else are you working on right now? Where can the fans come to find you?
Yeah. ToledoBlade.com is our website, and I think my Twitter, I tweet a lot. I still call it tweet. I'll forever call it tweet.
Yeah.
And I just enjoy doing it. I don't know whether some people like it or I do it too much, but that's one place you can go. I do have a feature story that people might want to check out on a Penn State guy that's from the area that a former Walleye player, Andrew Sturtz, helped him in his recovery. Just it's funny how hockey's connected like that. But I also have a feature story on Jan Bednar that'll be up on our website later this week. And thanks for having me on, guys. I really appreciate, like I said at the top, your addition here to just covering the Walleye as part of your Hockeytown West podcast I think it's been a great addition. So anytime, happy to do it. I had a lot of fun, guys.
We love the Toledo folks. It's always a blast going down there, and hopefully we're down there maybe next month. I'll tease that next month, and we can get together and maybe have some ginger ales.
Excellent.
You got anything else to add, Trav?
No, I'm good, man. Just a thank you to Mark. I know, become a good friend of mine, and see you every week. So it's been a blast to get to know you and be a part of the fun downstairs.
Excellent. It's been great having you for sure. Yeah, it's great.
It's been chaotic from what I've seen.
Yeah, that selfie thing the other night, that was something.
That's Hawk for you, right? He'll jump in. Oh, you need a cameraman? I'll do it. Yeah, they're great. I'll just say everybody there is just fantastic to deal with. Travis can attest to that. Win or lose, up or down, always willing to talk. So makes my job easier and more fun.
Love that. Hopefully, like I said, we're down there soon and be able to experience what cameraman Hawk down there. But we got to thank our sponsor of the show, DraftKings, and of course, Everything Hockey Clothing Company. Make sure you head over to everythinghockey.com. Use code WEST. Saves you a few dollars on your order, and it helps supports us. They're doing a couple giveaways right now for some new hoodies. I don't know if you guys have been able to check those out. And of course, the Hockey Podcast Network for being great partners with us. But without our Patreon subscribers, the show would not be possible. Check it out. Very cheap, affordable plans over there for everyone. $1, $5, $10, I believe is still what we have. Gives you some unedited episodes, no ads on a couple others, and then some behind-the-scenes looks as well before they go public. You get the early access to the episodes too. Our Patreon subscribers that currently, and we've got a new joiner today, a new joiner of Claire Boughton. We've got John in Florida. We have Elaine, Griffin, Randy, Derek, Lori, Alan, and Michael Asante to round it out. Head over to patreon.com/Hockeytown West podcast. That's all for Toledo. Love you. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Hockeytown West podcast. Be sure to check us out on Twitter at HockeytownWPod and your host, Nick at GR Hockey Guy and Brandon at BrandonGR Hockey.